Welcome back to Weird Stuff in a Can. Today we've got Cabello de Ángel, angel hair. So this is a can of something called angel hair that I brought back from Spain. It is a traditional thing in Mallorca, I believe, but actually it's become popular in mainland Spain as well. It is preserved melon, but a particular type of melon, the fig-leafed gourd, which is different from the most common squashes and pumpkins. And this one has a particular texture inside. So this gourd has fibres or hairs. If you've seen vegetable spaghetti, it's similar to that. This is cooked down and candied and then used as a jam or as a pie filling. Anyway, ingredients: gourd pulp, 62 grams per 100 grams of finished product, sugar, lemon, modified starch, thickeners, which is carrageenan and locust bean gum, and then acidifier, citric acid. So this is manufactured in Spain, I think, but as I say, this is probably most popular in Mallorca. So these fig-leafed gourds are grown and then overwintered to ripen them. So they're ripened and matured over winter, and then this is a spring confection. This is a thing that's typically made in spring, although this is a canned product, so this is preserved. But the fresh version of this confection is typically made in spring. Nutrition information is there if you're interested in that. Once opened, keep in the fridge, best before the end of 2029. The container is made without bisphenol A. Nutri-Score D, that's probably because it's just got a lot of sugar in it. So this is an extra, Confitura Extra. That's an extra jam, which jams and jellies have quite strict regulations in Europe, and actually the regulations we have here are aligned with that. An extra jam means it's got more fruit in it per finished product. So this is 62 grams of fruit per 100 grams of finished product. It is a pull tab can, and I am going to use a can opener to open it because that is my preference. Okay, there we go. So it is a jellified confection. It smells mildly fruity, slightly sort of like pumpkin, which is no surprise. I will taste a little bit straight out of the can. Now, this is commonly used in pastries, but it is also used as jam, such as you might put on toast. So for once, tasting it straight out of the can is not necessarily such an unusual thing to do. It's very sweet. It's weirdly fibrous. I'll just show you the texture. I'm not sure you'll really get this until we actually go and do something with it, but it's got these strange translucent threads in it. Kind of honey-like flavour, I suppose, really. It's mildly fruity, slightly floral. Yeah, quite a lot like a spring flower honey, I suppose, but there's no honey in it. It's just sugar and melon, basically. Anyway, this is most commonly, I think, put into little sweet empanadas and pastries. In particular, a type of sweet sandwich-like pastry called a bayonesa, which we're going to have a go at making now, so off to the kitchen. Okay, so I've got my can of angel hair confitura, and I've got 2 rolls of ready-made butter puff pastry. Now, I have made my own puff pastry in the past. If you want to see me do that, the Fobentos series is probably the place to go, where I had to make my own puff pastry because I couldn't get to the shops. Anyway, this has been out at room temperature for 10 minutes, just makes it a little bit easier to unroll, although it's still a bit tricky. And this can be baked on the paper that is supplied with it. So there's one sheet. I should put that straight onto the tray that we're going to bake it on. And then really couldn't be very much simpler. We're just going to take some of this stuff and spread it in a nice thick layer on top of the pastry. Stopping short about probably 1.5 centimetres from the edge of the pastry, because we're going to seal another sheet of pastry on top of this. And you can possibly see the kind of stringy, not stringy, the fibrous, it's not even really fibrous because it's so delicate. The thread-like, angel hair-like texture. I mean, I've never met an angel as far as I know, so, you know, speculations about what their hair might be like is up for grabs, really. I feel like that might not be enough. I think we might need the whole can here. Maybe I'll save a tiny little bit for my toast tomorrow morning, because this is actually one of the most pleasant, I would say, weird stuff in a can episodes. This stuff is delicately aromatic. Reminds me of the sort of delicate, sweet aroma of things like Turkish Delight, which I know not everybody likes, but I do. And it's that kind of fragrant, fruity, floral, delicious, delicate sweetness. Yeah, I think we are going to need the whole of this can. So my breakfast tomorrow might actually just be a slice of this, assuming it comes out okay. So options at this point include cinnamon. I think if you like cinnamon, and I don't mind cinnamon, I think that might be quite nice. Or lemon zest. And I think lemon zest is probably going to be my choice today. So I'm just going to get an unwaxed lemon, and we'll just have some little bits of the lemon zest, just taking very short strands. So yeah, it's not that I don't like cinnamon. I think cinnamon would be fine, but I feel like the flavour of this stuff is rather delicate. And I think cinnamon might be a bit of a bully in this dish. Right, now I need my second sheet of pastry. Okay. And this is the tricky bit, so I think I will probably leave it on the backing paper for now. So, just going to dampen the edges of that pastry there with a bit of water. Right, let's see if we can do this without messing it up, shall we? So, something like that. Okay. Not bad. And then I'll carefully just press around the edges. We need to seal it together because this is jam, and it will have a tendency to erupt. So just nicely crimp it all the way around the edge like that. Okay. So that is now crimped together. And then I'm going to mark it so that it cuts into portions once it's cooked. So how many portions do we think we've got here? 12 maybe? Like 1, 2, 3, and no, 4 that way, 3 that way. I think that seems about right. So just, well, I can actually use the back of the knife is probably a better thing here. Just mark it just lightly like that. Okay, and then into 3 that way. Not especially even, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And then we'll just prick some little vent holes in each one of these. Okay, right, egg wash. Burford brown, my favourite. So I suppose you could probably do this with milk. You could brush it with milk or maybe butter or something. But egg should give us a really lovely, glossy top crust. Just make sure there's no really big puddles of egg. We didn't want omelettes on top of it. Okay. That looks about right. My oven has been preheating to 210 degrees Celsius fan. And this apparently only goes in for 10 minutes, but I think it might take longer. Okay, well, we'll check that after 10 minutes, just in case it really only does take that long. So this is at the 10-minute mark. And definitely we've got a bit further to go. That's probably only about halfway cooked, I think. So I'm going to go for another 10 minutes. So 15 minutes in now, and we're starting to see browning all over, but I think there's still a way to go. I think it might end up being 25 minutes. I should say, by the way, I am following a recipe that I found online for this, which I'm very grateful for, and I will link in the video description. Okay, 25 minutes, and the house is quite full of the most wondrous and fragrant aroma. Now, perhaps counterintuitively, the thing we have to do now is put another tray on top of that to crush the pastry. That feels like a crime, but that's going to press the things together so that when we eat these confections, they won't just fall apart into pieces in our hands. I think. I think that's what it's for. Okay, 5 of your primitive human minutes have elapsed, and that's what we've got. So yeah, I think that was partly probably just to make sure it's nice and even and consistent. So we've got one more thing to do, which is to glaze it. The recipe I'm following says to use apricot jam. I don't have any apricot jam, but I do have quince jelly that I made last year. This will do just as well. So just mash that up. And while this is still warm, because this is going to melt onto it, we're going to brush the top with this quince jelly. This pastry will drive off even more moisture out of the quince jelly, and this will be sticky. And that will be a nice little counterpoint of flavour as well, because this quince jelly is slightly sour. So there'll be just a nice juxtaposition of sweet and sour flavours. And then finally, demerara sugar, which is a coarse crystal brown sugar. So we'll just sprinkle some of this over the top, all chefy-like, from a height so that it scatters relatively evenly. All right, that's it. Now a little patience is required, and I'll cover that up, keep any flies off it, and then we've got to wait for that to completely cool before we slice it up and give it a taste. Okay, in a frankly stupendous and fortuitous feat of timing, this is ready and cooled down just in time for 11's. So, yeah, as I thought, the top has gone sticky. Oh, this pastry sounds so good. Some of the crackling you're hearing is the paper, but let me just get you up close. Listen to the pastry. So there we go, that's what it looks like, and it's got this beautifully translucent layer of jammy angel hair gourd filling. A nice cup of dark, bitter coffee is in order, I think, to enjoy alongside this. Okay, I cut this in half to make it a little bit easier to eat, and I have squeezed the fillings out of the side a little bit, but there it is. Flaky layers of pastry, translucent angel hair gourd jam in the middle. Let's give it a taste. That is really quite delightful. And I think I was right about the lemon and not the cinnamon. I can taste the lemon in here, but it hasn't overpowered the delicate flavour of the angel hair gourd. A more civilised man might use a pastry fork, I think. That really is rather good. I mean, why wouldn't it be? It is fruit and sugar, butter and pastry and jam and more sugar. Why wouldn't it be absolutely delicious? And it certainly is. That is a strong contender for possibly being the nicest thing I've had on this whole series. So there we go. That was Cabello de Ángel, angel hair gourd jam, a Mallorcan delicacy. I really, really enjoyed that, and I recommend you try it. I hope it's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.